3 true winter horror stories. Think winter's peaceful. These chilling stories will change your mind. This is Mr. H. You're listening to Masked Horror. The disappearance on the ice road. I wasn't cut out for trucking in Alaska. The pay was good, sure, but the loneliness and the brutal cold clawed at my sanity. But this story, this one night, is why I left and never looked back. It was my second week driving the Dalton Highway, a desolate ribbon of ice cutting through endless miles of barren wilderness, a graveyard for the unprepared. The radio was my only companion, and even that offered little more than static. Late one night, a storm was in full swing when the CB crackled to life. Help, my truck's dead. I'm stuck at mile marker 73. The voice was frantic, trembling with desperation. Copy that, I replied, gripping the mic tighter. My stomach churned. I'm nearby, hang tight. The storm was unforgiving as I approached 73. Visibility was practically zero, but then I saw it, a semi-truck parked at a skewed angle, its headlights dark, a cab buried in the snow. It looked wrong, off, like it didn't belong there. I pulled up and honked the horn. No response. Every instinct screamed at me to drive on, but I climbed out, boots crunching in the snow, and shone my flashlight at the truck. The cab door creaked open, swinging lazily in the wind. Inside, there was no driver, just a thermos of coffee on the dash, still steaming. The warmth sent a chill down my spine. Whoever was here couldn't be far. Outside, fresh footprints trailed in the woods. They were spaced close together, disturbingly calm for someone who'd just abandoned their truck in a deadly storm. I hesitated, but my legs moved on their own. "Hello," I shouted, the wind shredding my voice. The trees swallowed my words whole. The footprints led deeper, their edges softened by the falling snow. My breath fogged in front of me, and the trees closed in like walls. Then, without warning, the prints stopped. Just like that. No sign of turning back. No drag marks. Just an empty clearing. I stood there, the silence crushing me. When my flashlight flickered, my heart jumped. I banged it against my palm, trying to will it to stay on. That's when I heard it. Crunch. The sound of snow compacting under something heavy. I spun around, the beam of my flashlight jerking through the darkness. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The wind howled, but something else was out there. I could feel it, watching me, studying me. The shadows between the trees seemed to shift, almost ripple. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and my breath hitched. I backed away, slipping on the ice, the flashlight's beam trembling in my shaking hand. Then, from the suffocating darkness, came a sound, a low, guttural chuckle, dripping with malice. I bolted. Every step was a fight against the ice, but I ran like my life depended on it. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I didn't stop until I reached my truck. I threw myself in the cab, slamming the door and locking it with trembling hands. My chest heaved as I tried to catch my breath, and then the CB radio came alive. "Why did you leave me?" The voice wasn't the same. It was calm, taunting, distorted. It sounded almost human, but there was something off, something wrong. The hairs on my arm prickled. I slammed the truck into gear, my tires skidding on the ice as I floored it, but I didn't care. I had to get away. When I finally reached the next station, I told my dispatcher what I'd seen. Search teams went back, but they found nothing. The truck was gone. The driver vanished without a trace. I quit 2 weeks later, just finished the month. Since then, I've heard other truckers talk about figures on the ice road, whispers on the CB when no one's around. I don't know what I encountered that night, and I don't want to know. Whatever was out there that night, it wasn't human, and I wasn't alone. I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me due to the demanding, lonely conditions, but I'll never forget the feeling of those eyes watching me. The stranger in the cabin. When I was a teen, my older sister told me a story that still keeps me awake some nights. She was in college at the time, and what happened to her friends changed the way I see winter getaways forever. To this day, no matter how much my friends beg, I've never gone on a weekend trip to a remote cabin. Here's why. Amanda and Claire, two of my sister's sorority alums from years ago, decided to rent a cabin deep in the mountains to work on a big project. They thought the peace and isolation would help them focus, maybe get some skiing in while they were at it. The cabin was miles from the nearest town, buried in the woods with nothing but snow and silence all around. The first night was uneventful. They built 2 snowmen in the yard, warmed up by the fire, and laughed about how idyllic everything was. But by the second night, the unease began. Amanda was the first to notice it. One of the snowmen was gone. Not melted, just gone. Its spot in the yard was nothing more than a flattened patch of snow, streaked with marks like something heavy had been dragged away. Claire tried to laugh it off, suggesting it had collapsed or maybe an animal had knocked it over. That night, Claire woke up from a startling sound, the sound of crunching snow drifting in through the silence, faint but deliberate footsteps circling the cabin. Her heart pounded as she crept to the window, peering out into the darkness. The snow outside was untouched, pristine, but the footsteps didn't stop. She swore she could hear breathing, low and rhythmic, just outside the window. The next morning, the air was brittle with tension. They stepped outside to find their car buried under an unnatural mound of snow. Not just dusted over, it was piled high, like someone had spent hours covering it. And then, they saw it. Leave. The word was scrawled in jagged, uneven letters across the front of the windshield, as if written by a trembling hand. Amanda wanted to leave immediately, but the buried car made escape impossible. They decided to hike to the nearest ranger station instead. Before leaving, they hurried back inside to gather supplies. That's when they saw it. The dining table was a scene from a nightmare. A rabbit, if you could still call it that, was separated into pieces, gutted and its fur matted with blood. The deep metallic stench filled the room, clawing at their throats. Blood soaked the table and pulled on the floor beneath it, glistening like a macabre warning. Amanda screamed, her voice cracking as she stumbled backward. Claire grabbed her, yanking her toward the door. "We need to go, now," Claire said, her voice shaking. They burst into the woods, running blindly through the trees. The wind howled, carrying with it a phantom sound of crunching snow behind them. Amanda clutched her phone, trying to call for help, but no signal. Every number they dialed returned the same mocking silence. The deeper they ran, the more the woods seemed to close in around them, oppressive and unending. Shadows danced at the edges of their vision, and Amanda swore she saw figures darting between the trees. The police found the car days later, snow still piled unnaturally high over it, the gutted rabbit still on the table. But Amanda and Claire, they were gone. No tracks, no bodies, just 2 sets of abandoned footprints that vanished into the woods. My sister swears this happened. She said the authorities chalked it up to exposure to the elements, or an animal attack, but the details never added up. The cabin was empty, no signs of animals, no sign of anyone else. Whoever or whatever was out there that night wanted them gone. This story planted a fear in me I've never been able to shake. Every time someone suggests a cozy winter cabin trip, my stomach turns. No amount of laughter, hot cocoa, or fireplaces could make me forget the gutted rabbit or the word scrawled on the windshield. Some places aren't meant to be visited, and some warnings shouldn't be ignored. The Blizzard Motel Mystery. I've heard a lot of strange stories in my life, but this one always stuck with me. It's one my dad swore was true, something that happened to his family during a brutal blizzard. Whether you believe it or not, it's the reason I'll never stay at an isolated motel during a snowstorm. My dad was only 6 years old at the time. His family, my grandparents, my uncle, and him had been driving through rural Pennsylvania, racing against the storm. But as the snow came down in suffocating sheets, they had no choice but to pull off at a dilapidated roadside motel. The flickering neon sign barely cut through the swirling white, and the building itself looked like it hadn't seen repairs in decades. The inside was no better. The lobby reeked of damp wood, and the receptionist seemed different. My dad described her as jittery, her eyes constantly darting to the shadowed hallway behind her. When she handed over the room key, her hand trembled. "Don't leave your room tonight," she warned, her voice low and urgent, "no matter what you hear." My grandfather asked what she meant, but she shook her head, muttering something about the storm and disappearing into the back. The family settled into their small, drafty room. My grandparents tried to laugh off the woman's warning, but unease hung in the air. Then the noises started. At first, it was faint, a soft tapping on the walls, rhythmic but uneven. Then came the scratching, long, deliberate strokes that seemed to crawl around the room. "It's just the wind," my grandfather insisted, though his tone was tight. By 2 a.m., the noises had grown louder, almost purposeful. That's when my dad woke up screaming. "There's a man outside," he sobbed, pointing to the frosted window. My grandfather rushed over, pulling back the curtain. The snow outside was untouched, pristine, no footprints, no man. "It was a bad dream," my grandfather said, his voice firm. But my dad swore he saw him, a tall figure in dark clothes, standing deathly still, just watching. The morning brought no relief. My grandparents went to the lobby to complain about the noises, but it was empty. The receptionist was gone, and so were the other guests. The motel felt abandoned and eerily silent. The only person they found was a cleaning lady, aimlessly pushing a mop across the floor. "Where is everyone?" my grandmother asked. The woman froze, her blank eyes locking onto my grandmother's. "You're the only ones here," she said, her voice hollow. "No one else checked in." The words hit her like a punch to the chest. My grandfather decided then and there they had to leave, storm be damned. They packed their bags in record time and rushed to the car, only to find it wouldn't start. Opening the hood, my grandfather froze. The battery was gone. Not disconnected, gone. When he looked down, he saw all 4 tires had been slashed, the rubber shredded like paper. A wave of panic overtook him. He ran through the snow, slipping and stumbling, to the nearest payphone. When the police arrived an hour later, the next wave of the storm had once again started to intensify after a brief lull. The officers searched the motel, but it was completely deserted. No receptionist, no sign of guests. Even crazier, no sign of the cleaning lady. Even their room looked untouched, as if no one had even stayed in it. The beds were perfectly made, their bags missing, and the key was back on the hook at the desk. My dad says the police didn't believe them, chalking it up to stress or a misunderstanding, but the fear on my grandparents' faces was unmistakable. Even now, my dad can't forget the way the receptionist looked when she handed over the key. Her haunting eyes, her trembling hands. It was as if she knew something they didn't, something terrifying. My dad often wonders if she was warning them or trying to keep them there. To this day, he doesn't know why they survived when everything seemed stacked against them. But sometimes, late at night, he says he dreams about that motel. And in the dream, the receptionist isn't alone. He is right there next to her working, welcoming the next set of weary travelers to the motel.